Johnson and Dyson. Where's the line on lobbying the government going? So lobbying is absolutely legitimate. This is something that happens in the parliament. And, it's part of how Westminster lives and breathes. And who would object to a small charity approaching its local MP to ask for help? Yeah, that's right. There is something going on. There's something going on, especially with all these lobbying cases. And in case you're wondering who this is, my name is Nick, and I'm keeping you guys company on Real Talk, trying to keep it real, trying to keep it 100% right here at Relax Radio. And with that, though, we have a little cliplet of what we represent right here at Relax. So check this out. That's right. You can always check us out on our webpage on www.relaxradio.net. And yeah, you can follow us on Instagram. We go on as at Relax Radio. You can also check us up on Facebook as well as Twitter. And hey, if you guys have any comments or suggestions, you can always hit us up on those numbers. You know what it is? It is 07852473473. Those are the magical numbers, you can always hit us up on. You can always contact us, and we'll always be free to let you know. I mean, it can be anything that you want to be. You want to be a part of the show. You want to talk to me. You want to say your opinions. You want to voice your opinions. Hey, you can always hit me up on those numbers. And yeah, also don't forget, you can download our app right at the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. But hey, getting back to the topic at hand, like I said, lobbying is a legitimate thing that is happening in Westminster. And, who would complain about the pub industry pushing the government for answers about when they can serve pints again inside after the year we've all had? So who would begrudge, all of this health unions trying to persuade ministers that their staff members deserve a pay rise? Well, there is a lot of stuff going on, and there are thousands of, different circumstances in which lobbying is perfectly valid. And but what about, however, when the most powerful politician in the country sends a direct message to an influential businessman promising, "I will fix it tomorrow"? So yeah, that is something that you have to wonder. Like, okay, when a big person, like, especially if you think about it in any other country, when the president says, "You know what, I'm going to fix this problem tomorrow." I mean, for you to say something your words weigh a lot. And, with that, though, this is also, Boris Johnson has said some words that, is going on, especially with Dyson, between Dyson and him through a text message. And yeah, there's a lot of, allegedly, there's a lot of this going on right now. And, Boris Johnson is actually, what he did was he assured Sir James Dyson his employees would not have to pay extra tax if they came to the UK to make ventilators during the pandemic. There is an obvious logic to the request made to the government. So Sir James was trying to respond to the urgent call for help at the start of the pandemic, when there was deep and genuine fear that the NHS simply wouldn't have the equipment to look after many thousands of patients at risk. So yeah, that is, something that James Dyson was trying to express, and he was trying to talk about all of this thing. And Dyson also, understandably perhaps, wanted to be clear about protecting its business from any costs or liabilities, because in the end, remember, they lost a lot of money from the project. And the Prime Minister was heavily involved in the efforts to get hold of these ventilators and in touch with so many businesses as the pandemic took hold. So yeah, both Number 10 and Dyson stress that, they are stressing the terrible urgency of the situation last year, rejecting the notion that the conversations were in any way inappropriate. Yeah, that's right. That is, something that they are going on about. So, it's just crazy. The rules that govern these ministers' behaviors aren't just about what is being discussed. They are also about how the conversations are being had. So yeah, the principles are clear. Contacts are allowed as long as there aren't conflicts of interest and everything is transparent and out in the open. Like I said, earlier, it's all got to do with transparency. If you're more transparent, if you're more open to the people, you're more open to the people are not going to be questioning you and asking you these questions it just goes to show that it's just crazy stuff, right? Like, if you really think about it. So Dyson has made an official approach to the Treasury on this issue, but it is not clear at this stage whether the Prime Minister did or did not tell officials about these specific exchanges of texts. So yeah, the practice of the principles that are meant to govern what is permitted has proved troublesome recently, provoking one of the all too regular concerns about lobbying of a government. So yeah, Downing Street let it be known last week that the Prime Minister was shocked about some of the revelations, that emerged, particularly about civil servants' behavior as the lobbying row got deeper and deeper. But in the next few hours, the next few days, some of these critics are likely to claim to be shocked by him. So yeah, that's just what is going on in the UK, especially when it comes down to this whole lobbying issue. And there's a lot of because one of the thing is, the text messages that Boris Johnson sent to Sir James Dyson were leaked, and he's chaired the cabinet meeting as he attempts to shift the focus from a series of claims and questions over his conduct. He's been doing a lot of these things. So among this, like I said, he'd been also having these accusations as well, where he said in a text message, all right, I quote, "Bodies pile high and then approve a third lockdown." That's what he said. And, it's just crazy what Boris Johnson is doing, especially when it comes to these past few days. I can understand there is a lot of pressure inside as well. And with all the, what is going around, the commotion going around, when you got here, you got, ABC attacking you from here. You have these kind of issues. You have the pandemic. You have the EU, causing some kind of trouble. And then you got to go support other countries as well. I know I can see what he's saying. Like, he won't approve another lockdown. But you could have phrased it even better. Why phrase it something like bodies pile higher? I wouldn't even care, as long as, I'm not going to approve a third lockdown. I mean, Mr. Johnson and the number 10 strongly denied he said the phrase, as the Prime Minister described multiple reports, like I said, as rubbish, total rubbish. And the Prime Minister is also facing a lot of these pressure also when it comes to the redecoration of his Downing Street flat. There's been a lot of backlash very recently with the Boris Johnson, with the issues that is going on. So Downing Street refused to say whether Mr. Boris Johnson received a loan from Conservative Party to pay for the renovations, but said any gifts or benefits would be declared in the ministerial transparency registers. So he said, hey, even if we got something like this, I mean, he's still going to declare about this. And it's just crazy, with what is going on right now. And if you really look at it, the Prime Minister is doing all of this. So the cabinet was seen, for a lot of these things that is going on. So Labour has called for a full inquiry into the costs and financing of the renovations to Downing Street. Yeah, that is correct. And, the shadow cabinet officer, Minister Rachel Reeves, described Mr. Johnson's alleged comments about bodies piling high as stomach churning. I mean, it is a terrible phrase. You could have phrased it better, even if it's true or not. I mean, to be even saying something like that during a pandemic like this, where thousands, millions of people actually are suffering. Millions and millions of people are suffering. People are dying by the thousands. It's just crazy for you to even be saying something like that. So, back in Monday, the UK's top civil servant, Simon Case, said Mr. Johnson had asked him to review how a refurbishment of the number 11 flat was funded after Mr. Cummings alleged the Prime Minister once planned to have donors secretly pay for the revamp of his, renovation of his whole apartment. So yeah, senior Conservative backbencher Sir Charles Walker said that he doesn't really care about the flat funding issue as long as my constituents didn't pay for it. That's all that really matters. And, that's all what it really comes down to. And Mr. Case also confirmed the probe was still ongoing into the leaks, preempting the official announcement of a second lockdown in England. Like I said, these are the questions that people are having right now. They want to know how this leak even happened. And he also says, Mr. Case says that, steps were being taken to tighten the rules around civil servants having second jabs in the wake of a row over the now collapsed Greensill Capital, which employed ex-Prime Minister David Cameron. Another reason why there is a lot of this lobbying issue going on right now in the UK is also in part, due to David Cameron as well. So yeah, Mr. Johnson has strongly denied, saying last year he would rather see bodies pile high than take the country into the third lockdown. So these remarks were all alleged to have been made last autumn during a heated discussion in Downing Street, just before the country went into its second lockdown from early November to early December. So yeah, this just, it's just crazy. I mean, England did enter its third lockdown on January the 6th. And it's because of this, now that everything is relaxing and getting back to normal. I mean, just goes to show, the suffering that the country has been going through. And I mean, for Boris Johnson to be saying something like this is just downright terrible. I mean, it's super terrible. But, I guess also, the latest claims also after a bitter row between Mr. Johnson and Mr. Cummings, who left Downing Streets in December, burst into the open last week. So, yeah, the former aide published a 1,000-word blog response to newspaper articles that claimed that he had leaked text messages between the Prime Minister and businessman Sir James Dyson. And in his blog, he was saying that he denied leaking text between Mr. Johnson and Sir James. He accused the Prime Minister of planning to have donors secretly pay for refurbishment of his flats, denied leaking details of November's second coronavirus lockdown in England, and claimed the Cabinet Secretary Simon Case had declared Mr. Cummings of being the source of the leak, alleged Mr. Johnson had considered trying to block an inquiry into the leak in case it involved a friend of his fiancée, Carrie Simmons. So yeah, it's just, there's just a lot of these things going on right now in the UK. I mean, it is crazy. We really don't know what is the real truth. I mean, look, if you really look at it, there's always going to be fire where there is smoke. So there's just got to be some truth beneath all of these alleged allegations. So, we don't really know what is going on, but hopefully, it will get resolved and the truth shall come to light. But with that being said, we are going to be taking a real quick break and we'll be right back after this. Taking a look at your time right now. It is 5:15. Good evening.